Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this latest episode of Now That's Significant, a market research podcast. This is your host Michael Howard, the head of marketing at Infotools. Today we're joined by Oscar Carlsson, Chief Innovation Officer at Cint. Cint is a market research technology company that provides innovative solutions for businesses to conduct research quickly and efficiently. Oscar oversees innovation in new business areas, as well as Cint's pre-sales and sales engineering team, and is involved in merger and acquisition activities and thought leadership. He also focuses on delivering the highest data quality and mitigating fraud in the industry as well, both of which are very important, as we all know. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Oscar.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
You're welcome. So, Oscar, what's the most significant thing you're going to tell us today?
So I think the main thing is because AI is such a hype and buzzword out there, Cint set out to actually do some research behind the usage of AI and how AI plays into the workplace. So I'm happy to share some findings from that research, which might in some cases be a bit eye-opening, and in some cases just validate what we believe already. And then happy to share more about actual use cases where we use AI already at Cint and some of our future plans and where we think the market research industry is heading in the use of AI.
Looking forward to that. So, the conversation around AI certainly is ever evolving. There's always something being released today or tomorrow. So it's going to be an exciting discussion. To set the scene, though, can you tell us a little bit about Cint's journey into AI?
Of course. So Cint has always been a global leader in digital insights. And then what we do and where we sit in the marketplace is that we say that we're set out to help feed the world's curiosity. And then we do this by running service like this. But really where we fit in is in the supply chain, where we optimize the procurement of panel for market research studies. And that's where we came first into AI, is to really use AI for the most efficient way to find the right panel and the right respondent for your study, where we see the highest conversion rate without introducing any sort of bias. And then future involvement and use of AI, we see more and more use cases, especially in finding patterns in terms of bad data quality and where that is coming from, to really help eliminate the fraud and the bad actors in the space by essentially predicting if an incoming respondent would provide bad data or not, based upon the billions and billions of data points that we run through the platforms.
It's true. It is a really interesting space, and we'll get onto some of this shortly. So you mentioned a study earlier on AI in the workplace. Can you tell us a bit more about this and some other findings in it?
Yeah, of course. So really, we set out to answer people that were full-time employees. We did this in the US, UK, and Australia. And we asked about if people were using AI at work and then how they were using it. And also if their colleagues were aware of it, if the company was aware of it. Did they get any guidance or was there any policies in place by the companies? And really, we named the study of this that AI is being a double-edged sword, and why. And really the main takeaways from the study was maybe not surprising that a lot of people use AI. They see the power with it, but also the danger with it. And one of the findings was that in the US, over half of the employees think their company needs to have an AI policy in place, while only 1/5 of the companies actually do have a policy in place. So it's sort of out there in the wild currently. And some of the other things that we learned from the study is that 20% of companies are actually encouraging people to use AI because it's really hiring productivity for the people working in the company. But only 65% of the people think, or 20% of the companies encourage it, but 65% of the managers encourage it. So it's more of the people managers that encourage it than the actual companies behind it, which proves that companies are still on the back foot of guiding their employees on how to use it. They're not really sure about the implications, so it hasn't come out any official policies or guidance yet. But what we see from the data is that if people managers already see the value, it's about to come very soon.
Yeah, I've worked in tech for quite a while now, and one thing that I've seen is once someone is used to working using tech as part of their productivity and their job, they find it so difficult to go and work in a company that doesn't use it. So it's actually a huge turnoff and dissuasion or barrier for people to joining a company if they're not up to speed with it. So yeah.
I think it's just such a major shift now in the workforce with the pandemic being there. People used to working remote or hybrid, and then with AI coming in as well, and especially now the younger generation being, of course, initially digital natives, but then also using AI. And then the way I see, especially generative AI, is that, of course, when we were all young, we had to do math by hand, and then we got the calculator. That was the first step, which created a lot of efficiency, but we had to know the math behind it. And the next big revolution to me was, of course, the internet came, but really when Google came and we started using Google searches, so you don't have to retain all the information, but you knew how to find it, and you used criticized thinking when reading all the sources, right? And I think that's the way we should see generative AI as well. It's sort of adding the same efficiency as the calculator, and Google having both the sources of all the information, but also can help you produce a lot of content, but you still have to apply critical thinking because it's still in its infancy, I would say.
That's right. That mention of calculators and the timeline you just gave brought up a memory of mine. The calculator with the solar panel on it, so didn't have to ever put a new battery. That was amazing.
Yeah, technology revolutions. No, it's exciting, but it's also, of course, you have to think about the power and what's behind it, right? So
That's right.
and I think we're coming up in a really interesting age where we are actually realizing where it's coming from, and I think in probably 20 years from now, people have no idea how actually AI works and where it came from. It's just a natural part of life.
That's right. So AI natives, not even digital natives.
Exactly.
So thinking about your research and your findings, what do you think this means for companies in general, and maybe its significance for the market research space in particular?
So I think new technology opens new possibilities, right? But the lack of regulation is something you have to be aware of. Employees should use AI. I think it creates opportunities, but also it's a big danger how the data is being used that you actually post into the AI and the retraining model. So working in market research, you work a lot with both consumer data, but also customer data. So you have to be aware of the regulations behind the data that you're working with, and be very careful when posting something up to OpenAI, ChatGPT, because you never know where that data is going to be used, right? And there are different tools in enterprise sort of generative AI which you can use, which have more of these privacy regulations where you keep it in your walled garden. And I think you have to look into that, and you have to talk to your internal IT company, actually realize how can I use this, ask for support. Don't be afraid to try new things, but when you try it, maybe don't use that sensitive data for sure.
Yeah, and that's one thing that companies that are a little bit hesitant at using something like this expose themselves to. So if they were to get that enterprise license that offers you that sandbox or that walled garden, like you're saying, that data stays put and it doesn't venture off any further out to where it shouldn't. So definitely some good advice there.
But I see cases where it's being used today, and there's market research use cases out there as well. So I think SurveyMonkey was probably the last one, and there's several other tools out there where you can use generative AI to script your surveys. So you use it as an assistant essentially, and then just say, I want to run a survey about this, and it helps you create a survey. And that's great as a support. You can use it as a base, but go in and check the results. Does it actually ask the questions you wanted to ask and so on? But use that as a rough draft just to make your life a bit more efficient. Then you don't have to use sensitive data just to be able to make yourself more productive. So I think that's a good first way to start using it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm hearing so often when people are using tools like ChatGPT, that it is a personal productivity tool. There are things that it can do that can just help speed up your non-sensitive tasks. In the first instance anyway, and it could move into the more sensitive things, but for now, there's a lot of benefit that we can get from it.
Yeah, I used it myself for a couple of different tasks. So we're planning a hackathon, and then just help you think about those things that you maybe forgot. So ask it to help you plan your workshop that you're doing and so on, and it gives you bullet points back, and you can work with the prompts to more tailor it to your needs, and use it as a rough draft. And then you work with your colleagues as you usually do to build out more of a detailed plan around it. But it helps you spot some things that you might have forgotten, and really gives sort of a good foundation to work off.
That's right. So just thinking, how can companies navigate this reality and support responsible integration of AI tools into their insights toolkit?
So I think first of all, data privacy is the key part for the market research industry. So when you work with a provider utilizing AI, ask where the data is stored, how it's being managed, how it's being shared. Ask if they have an option to actually create a wall garden for you if they have an enterprise model, and several AI companies already has this. So definitely go into the details on how how data is being stored and used and shared. But also ask about how it creates the responses and then generates the outcome for you, because there's a lot of things happening with generative AI, right? It's the first versions that we're seeing now with ChatGPT includes things like positivity bias, hallucination, and so on. So it really the main thing for an AI is you give it a goal. This is what I want to achieve, and then it helps you to reach that goal. In some cases, it steps over bodies and it creates imaginary worlds to get to that sort of goal that you've been asking for. But it makes things up. You can try with testing something that you already know. For example, I asked ChatGPT to write a bio about myself, and it was an awesome bio. I would hire that person in a second, but it wasn't true. It made up a lot of different things, which I unfortunately haven't done. But it sounded really great, right? So go in and test things that you already know. Then you start seeing where it's filling the gaps where it doesn't have enough information with a bit of too much positivity bias. And then the way you design it, you can actually work with generative AI to be more honest and saying, I don't have too much data in that space, so it won't create that positivity bias for you. So there's a lot of things that you can work with and tweak with the providers that you work with.
So I've been working with AI prior to ChatGPT as well, and thinking of, say, conversational AI where it's a smart-ish chatbot. If someone says this and it's 80% close to this, it will give you this answer. Yeah. Is there a way with generative AI, the modern tools anyway, that you can say only return back to me something that you're 95% confident of? So is there a way just to play with those internal settings when you're asking?
I'm first of all, I'm not a generative AI expert. Sure. I would love it for being an easy way to tweak that. I'm not completely sure, to be honest, but I know that a lot of these tools, they work with sort of 80% or higher sort of hit rate, right?
Yeah.
And I think in the future versions, I just heard they announced GPT-4 Turbo just the other day, right? So there's more and more tools being out there for both AI developers and for users to be able to use the AI in different ways and then create more applications on top of it. And I think that's a really good thing that you want, right? You want to avoid that positivity bias and hallucination. And there's more things coming into place, and the more and more regulators are getting invited in the development of these tools, right? There are more guardrails being put into place as well. So the way I see it right now, where generative AI is, it's sort of in the adolescence age. It's a teenager. It doesn't have all the consequence thinking that it needs. But as it matures, it will become an adult in a couple of years, where it actually takes more of those things into consideration. Because right now, if you ask the AI to do something, it would sort of step over bodies and do things which maybe are not things you would do as a human, right? So it's not completely human-like thinking and rationality behind it. But I think more and more of those guardrails are being put into place. But to ask the AI companies to regulate themselves is probably too hard of an ask, because it's such a competitive environment right now, and really a land grab. So I think, and why AI companies are inviting the policymakers is that they want someone to set up the rules for them, right? And then I attended a conference in San Francisco a couple of months ago, where Sam Altman and a lot of the AI leaders were there talking, especially around the governance around it. And then there was one session with an AI ethics professor from Stanford as well, which was really going into ethics behind it. And what's interesting to see with the AI movement right now is, compared to the social media movement 10 years ago, the regulators weren't even close to social media for the first 10 years of social media, and they came in where it was way too late, and they didn't really understand the power of social media and the danger of social media. And when regulations came into place, it was way too late. So really what's happening now is that regulators are already at the table with AI developers talking about these different things. So I think that's healthy, because it's so much power that will come with this. So it needs to be regulated and governed in a good way. And when I hear regulators talk now, they're so much more educated about AI than what they were with social media just 5 years ago.
I think one thing people forget is AI has been around in the commercial world for quite a while now, and these discussions have been happening for the last 5 years mainly, a little bit before that as well. But your IBMs of the world, like Watson's been like at this for quite some time now, and they've been having these internal discussions, like how can we, like what ethics do we need to consider, or what is good, what is not, etc. So yeah, it's been good that that's all been happening, and it's not all of a sudden, oh, generative AI is here, we better do something.
Yeah, no, it's sort of when you've been working close to AI for a long time, you get a bit tired with the hype and the buzz that's happening now in the last year, just because OpenAI opened up ChatGPT, which is amazing. It's a revolution in itself, and especially the adoption of it, and so many people that actually started using it, where AI and predictive AI and so on has been out there for such a long time. I think it was probably 2016 or something like that. I built my first chatbot by just teaching it with old consumer troubleshooting and so on, which you can just load it with, and it worked fairly good. But it's hard to build a real chatbot that actually is intelligent. But that's coming more and more now in the revolution that we're seeing now with generative AI. So it's definitely it's a step change, but everything is not brand new.
That's right. And I think it also requires like technology providers like myself and so at Infotools and Cint as well to have a view that it's human centric. So like we're building out our platform to ensure that people and market researchers stay front and center, like utilizing the the power of AI in certain aspects, but always ensuring that there's that human element, the human sign off, the creativity, curiosity that you mentioned as well. Like, how can we bring that out of people and give them more space to think and to utilize that? It's all really important, intentional decisions that you have to make. So.
Yeah, for sure. AI doesn't have consciousness yet. We'll see when it reaches that. But as you say, I think also we heard that this AI conference was someone that said that AI won't replace humans. Humans with AI will replace humans without AI. So I think it's good to think about all the tasks that we're doing and what can be replaced with AI and what cannot, and how can we repurpose our time and actually use it in the right way to create more value creation tasks, and how can we work more with our customers to understand our customers and then use AI for more of the administrative tasks. So things like transcripting and so on can be automated fairly easily, but some of the more creative aspects, as you say, still needs a human to be able to drive that, and a lot of the relationship and explaining to customers is human to human, right? So there will still be a place for humans in the future, I believe.
Yeah, sure. So there's another element to this whole AI discussion that doesn't often get talked about that much, and that's explainability. So how organizations need to be able to advise how their AI has produced a particular output or outcome. How do you see this playing out with Gen AI in the insight space?
Yeah, no, it's tough, right? You have to realize that AI is the black box. You don't know exactly how things are being generated and calculating in AI, and that's part of sort of how it's built, and it should be an intelligence, right? But you have to be transparent with your customers on how you operate when you use AI, how the data is used and shared, and what's the source of the data that you're bringing to the customer. And before you bring it to your customer, be critical on the results that you produce, right? Is this really correct? How can I justify this data being produced to customers? Usually when you do some research still in the background, right? And you might use AI to help analyze that, to produce results from it. But use some judgment. Does it actually make sense what we get out here and what we should present to our customers? And look at ways to eliminate things like we talked about, hallucination and opportunity bias. If you use generative AI that has those tools, be very critical and then actually check the outcome. But explain the process to your customer. It's the best is always to be transparent on how you operate and how you get things. And in some cases, it's fine using a black box to generate some things, as long as you're transparent with the customer and how that's being produced.
The one thing that you mentioned there was the source of data, and that's quite a key thing as well moving forward as well, because most people, when they think of AI, it's gone and scraped Wikipedia and for answers, and then brings that back. But that's not the case, is it? There's a number of sources that companies can use, both primary and secondary data and tertiary, to be able to make confident decisions, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You can definitely or companies can differentiate on what data they have access to, right? So if you're a big customer and you have a lot of own customer consumer research, you can use that to train the large language models as well, right? So I think that's one way to keep a lot of proprietary data to yourself, but to use generative AI to actually derive outcomes from that, from your past research and your future research. And you probably have more recent data as well that's available out there to the public online. So definitely there's a lot of ways to differentiate, and then to add things like trend data to train the large language models, and then to be even better, more focused, especially on niche type of research and niche audiences than what you get from just ChatGPT, which uses online available data, right?
That's right. And then if you do have that that internal, that primary data access to, so it could be market research data or sales transactional data, you can actually use that, analyze the historical data, and even test it against your historical results and findings as well. And it's a good way to test the efficacy of it all as well.
It's always good to benchmark. If you're bringing a tracking study from phone to online or so on, it's always good to benchmark that and then to run parallel tests over time just to make sure that you're comfortable with the data, right?
Yeah.
So I think that comes to generative AI as well, and there's a lot of use cases where it's being used today with just having proprietary data. So if you imagine the sort of customer relationship world where you're just going through sort of customer conversations, you can use it to just summarize all your email conversations that you have with one specific customer, keeping that proprietary within the company, and then helping you support in creating the best response to that customer. So there's several different use cases out there, from the big CRM companies that utilize AI, just using your data, to market research companies as well, just building off walled gardens using your data as well. So definitely have a look around. Just don't stop with only OpenAI, ChatGPT, test Bard and the others as well, but also look at some of the more profile providers as well that's catering to market research industry or wherever industry that you're in.
Yeah, good points. How about, what do you feel market researchers aren't talking about or thinking about when it comes to AI or market research software to that extent as well?
So I think a lot of market researchers still putting digging their head into the sand and not realizing what's happening around them. So I think the best is to be curious of the new tools and really harness the power of it. Try it, test it out, be cautious, right? But really understand where AI will start automating. How will your company operate when AI has really come in as a natural place in the work environment? What tasks will be automated? Where should you repurpose your time on? How can you work with AI instead of working against AI or hiding from AI, right? So I think it will definitely be a competitive advantage for everyone that utilize it for productivity purposes, and especially in market research where we work with so huge data quantities. It will definitely help us to produce better data quality, to help us produce better insights, I would imagine, things that we don't, trends in data that we don't spot today with the human eye. AI will help you spot those, and you can service your clients in a much better way.
I can think of an example actually where a big corporate was working with something, and one of the companies I worked with actually used one of our software tools, and they came back to us and said, your data's wrong. We've been running it like this for years now, and that's not right. And we pulled back, digged into it, and actually what we did was right, and they'd been reporting on the wrong number for a long time. So there's some benefits of using new skills, because it can potentially grapple complex calculations, etc., a lot better than traditional methods.
Yeah, no, I think that comes to everything. You have to be open-minded, and you always have to criticize yourself and then the way you've been operating in the past. And just that you've been doing it the same way in 10 years doesn't mean it's the right way, right? You have to be not prestigious enough to actually realize that you can change, right? And AI will spot so many things in how we work today and in society that is not really the most efficient way of doing things, and the things will change with the help of that assistance, I would think.
That's right. So it certainly is going to be interesting to see how the next 5-10 years rolls out. I
think you can be scared, but I think the main thing is to be excited and curious about what's coming, and then of course be adaptive to change.
Yes, absolutely. So AI is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to obviously propagate even further. So it's a good time to have an idea, a plan of attack for implementing it properly. As we've talked about, there's a lot of upside to it. So Oscar, is there anything else you'd like to add to help summarize our discussion today, or just to reiterate
No, I think for main takeaways is for companies, go and advise and train your staff, give them the support they need to understand AI and what's coming and how it can be used. Set an AI policy. It doesn't have to be the perfect policy from day one. It's an iterative process, and we're all learning. It's all new for everyone, right? So set a policy and make that evolve over time. And I would understand how this will change the playing field. Create small incubators or innovation hubs that start testing the new tools and see how this can help your company. And then for employees, don't be scared, start testing. Just be protective about the sensitive data and be critical on the results, but test generative AI with things that you know, and then start using it in your daily life as well. And I think, as always, you have to use sound judgment when doing it. But yeah, don't be scared. Start using it.
Well, I guess if you see it as being one of your direct reports, you'd always check their work normally, particularly if it's for a big thing before it goes out. So use that, make it better, tweak it, make it your own, and
exactly,
you're winning. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you on the show and to hear how you at Cint are helping to make market researchers' lives easier, consumers' lives better as well, and utilizing the power and the smarts of AI whilst making us do what we can do better as humans as well.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for having me. It's been fun talking about this, and I'm really intrigued on seeing what everyone will do with AI in the next 6 to 12 months, and then really where we are in a year from now.
Yes. Well, we'll have to catch up and to have a review to see how we've gone and like, were we right or did we miss the mark completely?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
That's right. And thank you. Thank you to the listeners out there as well. If you have liked what you've heard today, we'd appreciate you subscribing to the podcast, sharing it with others, leaving a review as well. And until next time, thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.